All right, it is 4:02 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Economic Development Corporation. Today is November 30th. Blanca, if you don't mind establishing quorum.
Hiren Govin, President.
Present.
Roland Gomez, Vice President.
Present.
Daniel Dan Diaz, Secretary. Aaron Ronnie Rivera, Treasurer.
Present.
Veronica Gonzalez, Director.
Present.
Sabrina Walker Hernandez, Director. Present. Raul Resendez, Director.
Present.
And we have quorum.
Excellent. We can certify public notice as well, please.
The notice was posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act on November 24th at 10:50 a.m.
Excellent. Do we have anybody in the audience or who on Zoom for public comments? No? All right, I will close public comments. Moving on to agenda item 4, Director's Report.
Yes, we have several updates for the board. In the previous board meeting, we invited the board to participate in the commercial and investment tour. That was hosted November 9th, 2021 here at the City Council Chambers. We had about 40 to 50 people, investors, bankers, developers, brokers attend the bus tour. And in partnership with the RGV Partnership and Coldwell Banker, and I do want to thank RGV Tours for sponsoring the bus, which made the tour all that more effective and special. But we did have some highlights for the city, and you can find that on our website. But something that we do want to share is of cities with 100,000 or more residents, Edinburg is the 12th fastest growing in the country and 6th fastest growing in the state of Texas. So that just highlights the tremendous growth that the city of Edinburg is experiencing right now. But for more information on data points, you can always find them on our website, on our EDC website. We still have some projects that are developing. Sittins Martin Emergency Group and Jet Media is in the process of closing this week, so more updates on that. And we did include MVLE Enterprises, which is RGV Tours. That project already closed, and they already put up a sign up at the North Industrial Park. They're going to celebrate their 15th year anniversary, and they're hoping that they can celebrate it here in Edinburg with us. So that's exciting. We are still in communication with different prospects, different types of projects for expansions, relocations, and new businesses. This list is ongoing, and we're constantly in communication with different companies from across Texas and across the RGV. We are revamping our Business Retention and Expansion Program, our BRE program. We're calling it Breaching Out. We are looking at our list again with the help of Mr. Kelsey and staff. We're looking at our Spark recipients and our business and retention list of different manufacturings, IT companies or produce companies, and revisiting with them and sharing a survey so we can learn more about their needs and challenges that they're experiencing here in the city. So we can address the issues, provide resources, or support them in expansions if we identify that. For retail development, our follow-up that we will be doing at ICSC will take place this weekend, this coming weekend. All the Buxton and company matches that we have been discussing in this past year or so, we will be scheduling some meetings with them in person so we can follow up and ensure that we follow up to that phone call we did and email earlier this year, and now we can do an in-person meeting. More on that this week for the board. An itinerary will be shared with you all. It'll be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and most of you will be back on Wednesday. So we'll provide all that information to the board. Coldwell Banker is still assisting with securing meetings, communicating with Brian and myself, to ensure that we get more meetings on our calendar. Programs, we do have our marketing program, DCI, Development Counselors International. Their contract is ending today, actually November 30th. The scope of work that they were required to do was our website, which was the main item, and they were tasked to translate the website to Spanish because we have a lot of prospects and site selectors that are Spanish speaking. They did complete a video, which is highlighted in the marquee on our website, and they did deliver a pitch presentation for us. And we can use that at the ICSC conference as well because it has different bullet points on different highlights on the EDC and the City of Edinburg. And again, that concludes today. But we are constantly updating the website, including data points, different things, different programs, press releases that are happening for different types of projects or programs that we're announcing for the EDC.
So is the website's launched and updating and go, okay.
Yes, yeah, the website is up on it's up, and we are constantly updating with different data points that come up, like the data points that we presented in the tour. So those are new numbers, so we're constantly updating that. So it's always up to date.
Blanca, we have information on like how many hits it gets and all that bunch of stuff, the traffic that goes through it, right?
Yes, we're working with our IT department to get access to the Google Analytics.
Okay.
It's set up, yes, okay. So we can provide a report on which page is getting the more hits, and if so, what we can do to attract more traffic to it, which leads me to the next point, which is our newsletter. We're launching in December. And the main point for that is to keep the business community or business stakeholders in the know of what the EDC is doing, but also to drive traffic to the website, to highlight different industries, different properties, and different types of news that we share on there. So we want to make sure that when people receive the newsletter, they click and it takes them back to the website so we can drive traffic and they can learn more about the EDC and what we have to offer. And that's coming up in December, hopefully this week, actually.
Sorry, Blanca. So, like, since DCI is ending today, I guess what was y'all's evaluation of the process? What the outcome was? Like, the whole process, like, quote unquote, was it worth it in the,
Yes, well, they were tasked to do those very 4 specific things, which was a website, the translation, a marquee video, and a pitch presentation, and they delivered those 4 items in a very prompt time. They did ask feedback from myself, from Brian, and from Mr. Garza. So they had focus groups with the business community as well. So they took all that information and put it into the website. But I don't know if you want to add anything else, Brian.
Yeah, we got good value for the money there. I mean, I've participated in those projects in other places, and for the contract amount, we got a lot of value for it. Okay. So yeah, I was pretty happy, and the transition to us updating it is easy. I mean, it's a WordPress site. Blanca and I, the staff here, we have plenty of experience updating the site, so we won't need to go back to them and have to wait, in line with any other, the other clients in order to turn things around rapidly. So yeah, I was pleased with it.
Any other questions? Okay, and then just a reminder that our home-based business and facade programs will be launched in this next new year. We're working, staff and leadership are working on establishing some guidelines to go around those 2 programs so we can be ready hopefully by January, and we can announce that and open it up to the business community for home-based and the facade program. And then just a quick update on the properties on our EDC owned building, the 1710 South 28th. We are working on procuring some services to secure the roof, make some remodeling there, and on the ACs to ensure that the building is up to par. And we are actually about to be done in renewing the lease agreements with the 4 tenants that we have there. So that's been happening this month and part of December. And we do have available office space, about 1,600 square feet available up in the front of the building that we have already been posted. We posted it up on our website so people can see that it's available. And Coldwell Banker is also marketing that So I think there's to have been several companies that have been looking at that office space since he started marketing it.
Blanca, I just wanted to commend the staff on the tour because I thought it was very, very impactful, especially having everybody on one bus, so people could share information. But you had a wide array of people on that bus, and so I think it's really good in advertising what Edinburg has, and even for those of us who are more involved, to see the properties and not just see them on a map, but to actually see them, and the drive-by of them was very helpful. So thank you for doing that. And I know that y'all, on the website, I think y'all have worked very well. Your staff has worked very well with the chamber staff, and I think any video y'all do, we put it on the chamber website. Any video that the chamber does, we put it on the EDC website. That way, one directs to the other. I think it'll be very helpful in making sure that when people go to one site, they get 2 for 1.
To add just a little bit to that, as part of the city's funding agreement with the chamber, some additional funds were added this fiscal year that was approved just a couple weeks ago to expand the video vignette program that the chamber's doing. So we're going to work together to kind of expand that a little bit. And obviously it's all going to mesh together with the economic development goals. So we're excited about that.
Nice. And I second on the RGB tours. I was shocked that we had to tell 2 people no for getting on the bus. I couldn't believe it. So anybody who wasn't here, this room was packed. And when they said raise your hand on who's going on the bus, I think 98% of the people raised their hand, which was pretty cool. It was really cool.
Yes, and to add to that, actually, that's excuse me, this is a good transition. So in the tour, we were able to highlight some of the bond projects that we have been working on, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Garza for that update.
Sure, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I know that there was some requests on some updates, so I just kind of want to go through the projects. There's basically four statuses I'll run through, those that are complete, those that are in construction, in design, and then we have one that's just kind of in a parking lot, and we'll get to that in a bit. Just for the one that's complete, our McIntyre Courtyard, we all know that the construction's on that is complete. It's a rentable space. We're actually going to have the City of Edinburg staff Christmas event there, so we'll have that here in next weekend. But the total project that we spent on all the construction and equipment was $160,000. So I just let Blanca know that we just closed that account. So we'll create a memo with all the line items because, as you may remember, we kind of had agreed to go 50-50 on that. So I think for $160,000, definitely that was worth the investment. And again, that has already kind of set the stage at getting people to attract for the long-term goal. So the EDC portion on that is right at $79,650. So that one's complete. We have 2 projects in construction that are EDC funded. In terms of a timeline, the next one up is the Beethoven Park. Beethoven Park is the all-inclusive park that we're doing with Vanguard Academy. We broke ground over the summer on that one. We are a little delayed on that one, but they found an underground unmarked live electrical cable. So we had to wait on AEP to remove that, but that has been since removed, redredged and all that, so they're back at it, and we should be cutting the ribbon on that by late January. So that's the next one for us to kind of celebrate. So there's portions that Vanguard will be constructing on their own, like the restroom and things like that. We'll probably open it without the restroom being built. We're trying to get them to kind of go along with us, but there may be portions on their end that may not be complete, but we should be cutting the ribbon in January. El Tule, our recreation center, that's in construction state. It's on schedule right now. The foundation, they had a little delay last week. They were gonna, if you look at it, the foundation of the facility is already all framed out. They were going to pour last week, but with the rain last week, they're actually going to pour, I think, late this week. So, but they're right on schedule, still slated to be complete late summer of next year. So that's El Tule. We have 3 that are in design. One of those is Capable Kids Cove. If you remember, we took, it was $1.6 million, and $600,000 went to the Beethoven Park. $1 million went to the Cove, which is the water park. That $1 million was leveraged with city project of renovating municipal water park. So the full project is a little over $4 million there. But that is in the final portion of design, and we should be breaking ground on that one in March, the Capable Kids Cove. That whole municipal water park, the bathhouse, that old bathhouse, that blue and white one, that one's going down. The pool's going to be redecked. I mean, this is going to be a really nice, all-inclusive kind of water park. So that's the next one for us to begin. We'll be breaking ground in March. The parking garage, that one is we had just solicited for architectural. And I know Keo, our city engineer, was about to ask Blanca. They're going to sit down and do the ranking on doing the ranking so that they can move forward with the selecting of the vendor for architectural. If you remember that one, the parking garage was funded at $10 million and then $2 million of EDC funds. $10 million was with the city. I'm sorry, $8 million with the city, $2 million with the EDC. So we'll move forward with selecting the architectural firm, and then once we get to somewhat the shape of the scope, we'll come back to the EDC and show you where we're at and that kind of thing. That's kind of what I've been doing with the ACE Center, and I'll get to that in a second. But parking garage, we're still pretty early on that, but way ahead of the curve there. We have 4 years to construct that facility, but we'll be done with that in 2 years, barring anything for unforeseen.
That's what I was going to ask you, Ron, on the completion on that parking garage. They're estimating, what, 3 or 4 years?
No, by 2 years we'll be done. I mean, once we start the design scope, we'll start that here in the next month or so. The design's pretty straightforward. It's nothing too fancy. So the design phase should be about 6 to 7, 8 months, and then construction's about 10 months. So as long as we keep rolling, we'll have it in about 1.5 years to 2 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. The ACE Center, for those that remember, the ACE Center is phase 2 of Promenade Park, the western side of our park here. ACE Center was $14 million total, and that was split 7 and 7 between the city and the EDC. That one is in design. We're currently doing the scope of design. That's a pretty intensive design phase for 2 reasons. Number one, it's a 40,000 square foot building, so it's a large building, but it's wearing a lot of hats. It's part a little bit of annex to City Hall. It's also the event center, the large event center, and then all the cultural arts kind of capacity building. So it's got a lot of hats, but I think the design team, ERO, is doing really good work in terms of working with us. Blanca is now on the kind of working on she's with us on the updates to make sure that the EDC portions get accounted for. We just took a tour of the Sam Houston building. I had never been in that building, but we went in there, I think this was a couple weeks ago, just to see if there was anything that we could preserve from that building to actually physically remove to go into the new building. On the inside, there wasn't. Has anybody been inside that building? So, years. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't been. I mean, there's a couple owls that live there now. So it's interesting, but unfortunately, there's nothing really to preserve. The best preservation elements are going to be the exterior elements. There's some figurines and some tiles that we're going to extract and either recreate or take those. But inside, there's an old fireplace that I think in my mind I had it envisioned in different ways, but it's just a regular fireplace. So yeah. Nothing too special. There are 2 tiles there that they're going to try and pop out and remove. But so that one is in about middle design. About March, they should be finished with the final scope of the design. And by June, looking to break ground. So in June, we'll be doing the bidding out for the construction company and breaking ground in late July, which ironically, the timing's going to work out really well when phase 1, which is the amphitheater and the water gardens, when that gets ribbon cut, probably be at the exact same time the groundbreaking happens for the building. And then the building will be about a 1-year construction project. So yeah, this summer we'll be enjoying the first part of that, of our Promenade Park there. The only other one is that is still allocated for at $1.6 million is that workforce. It was earmarked as a workforce resource center. That one, it's still kind of our belief that that I think a business and industry opportunity will kind of present itself to marry that. So as of right now, we're kind of really not planning that, but I mean, if you look at the big industry, like Toyota's the one that comes to mind for me, is that, you know, when Toyota came to San Antonio, Alamo Colleges basically built a workforce center to train the staff, and they built that direct pipeline. It would be awesome to do something like that, maybe at the airport, industrial park, or something like that. So we're obviously just kind of sitting on that to see when the opportunity presents itself. So, but of course, we're always open to any suggestions on that. So I just wanted to do a rundown on current projects that EDC funded that the city's managing, but are there any questions? Okay, Blanca just asked me to do a quick run through.
Ron, just one quick question. Is the event that's coming up in Vegas, is that the only source of EDC traction in terms of, I know we discussed a lot of city type of projects, you know, parks and stuff like that, which are necessary. But in terms of acquisition of major players or companies moving to Edinburg and referrals and what have you, is that our only format or case study of how to do it, or?
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But it seems like, I mean, just a lot of projects are good, but not enough formal attraction, engagement of meetings or facilitation of new people, of us, the board, facilitating new players into our market outside of a lot of parks and that type of venue, which is important to attract, obviously, the people we're talking about.
Of course.
But at some point, obviously, we need true economic development.
Yeah.
In terms of...
Totally agree.
So-
I'll let Brian chime in first before I give some comments.
So there sort of four sources, right? And you know, economic developers are famous for, you know, kind of, you know, shooting blindly up in the sky and whatever falls and lands claiming credit for. And there is some element to that. But in terms of what you can actually do as part of a work plan, there are kind of four sources. One would be these kind of trade show industry events. You know, those are important, some more than others, and not all of them are retail. You know, there are logistics conferences, there are other transportation. I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of conferences that I think as things start opening back up and people start hosting more of those in-person events, you know, we're going to be recommending kind of a steady slate of those opportunities going out, at least one of the staff members going out there and doing that. That's sort of your first one. Your second one would be sort of research oriented, right? So you kind of look at your market here, you figure out what might make sense here in terms of the other pieces of an industry sector that are here. And then you can take that information and actually, you know, look at either Texas-based large companies that might be interested in expanding to this location, or companies from outside the state. And you kind of make the case about why, you know, they would have a particular competitive advantage to be here, right? So that's sort of staff-driven, and we're doing that kind of on a weekly basis here. So that's kind of number two. Number three would be through your hired broker help. And, you know, that's where we're gonna land. Remember, we're gonna lean on Danny a bit and Caldwell Banker. You know, in terms of support from the board and others, you know, it doesn't have to go through Danny. I mean, anybody that has a lead on somebody either in town looking to expand or come from another city or from out of state somewhere, you know, we're always open to fielding those inquiries, and we do. I mean, we'll get, like, so for example, we have a meeting set up in Vegas from a Dallas-based broker representing one of the retail establishments that we were targeting through the Buxton work. So, you know, that's that. It can kind of come through the broker community as well, right? And then, honestly, you know, kind of the fourth bucket is just these sort of random contacts we get. And this, I mean, this happens virtually every week, where somebody just sort of calls out of the blue. They'll see something on the website. They'll see something in the news. That's why, you know, as we kind of move forward into the new year, we're going to start paying a lot more attention to trying to get stuff out in the media, because you never know who's going to see it and who's going to call. And we get random calls like that all the time. So, those are kind of the four areas. Some require a little more investment than others. Some, it's just trying to get ourselves out there, and then you kind of get these random inquiries from people. The only other one that, the staff spends a lot of time on, so I want to mention it, but your odds are pretty low, would be these opportunities that are sent to us from the governor's office. Staff, I don't want to diminish the work that's required because it's work, right? But we'll get these RFIs, these requests for information that come from the governor's office, and then within, I don't know, even sometimes 48 hours, we have to turn around a proposal. But these are typically giant projects. So, these are things looking for like 200 to 300,000 square feet of existing warehouse space. A lot of these things that a market like ours, we just don't have. But because, it's our responsibility to make sure we try to turn over every rock, right? So I want to mention that, but your odds there are pretty
And the
low.
reason why I asked, Taylor was just announced as a site.
Right.
I assure you that Edinburg has more to offer than Taylor. I mean, truly, and I believe so. From a university to MSA of over 12,200,000 people. Did we know about that?
Yes, but we were never going to be competitive for something like that. I mean, they are expanding in that market because they've already got a really large footprint in that market. And you're talking tens of thousands of existing tech employees.
Sure.
So, there are certain things we're going to, I think, have a leg up on other places for, but something like that, we're always going to look for those opportunities, particularly in something like automotive, because San Antonio has such a niche in that now, and we're closer in proximity, and obviously a lot of people who are shipping things across the border, we're going to be in the mix but for something like that, yeah, we'll go after it, but...
Yeah. So in light of that, so where's the alignment with like UTRGV and, I mean, until we get to the resource of having, whether it's technology or automakers or what they do, it's a lost cause then.
No, I don't think it's a lost cause because for us, I mean...
And the capacity and their human
So for us, we
resource
can
part.
grow it. We just have to start small, and it's got to be kind of organic. Like for example, there's somebody we're talking to now who's based in the region here, but we're talking about a couple dozen. We're not talking about thousands. And that's really worth the effort because you never know, how fast something is going to grow. You don't know what discovery might come out of the university where you have a professor that, files some patent and, he or she decides that they want to leave the university and maybe go start a spinoff somewhere. That we are going to be engaged in those kinds of activities. But for us, I mean, particularly with a kind of a nascent sector like tech, we got to start it small, and it's got to be kind of organic.
Well, one thing I will say is we do have expertise from professors and researchers in a lot of different areas, right? So if we have a company coming and their expertise is, automotive, or they need engineers for some reason, or they want somebody with computer science skills or whatever, we can always, you let us know, and we can get the right people there at a meeting to talk, their lingo with them. With just a little notice, we usually can get people together. And I know that's something that as companies start to, okay, I think we have to establish a niche really for something. And then we'll see. I mean, I see we have a lot of medical here, not just, of course, the medical school, but all the hospitals we have here, all the doctor's offices, all that. So I do think we will see that expand. At this point, we're not seeing pharmaceutical companies or anything wanting to come in yet. But as we start seeing more of the, where they're actually doing trials, clinical trials and stuff, you will start to see that. And so at that point, then we can have the experts meeting with them. But anything where there is a company, know that you can count on us to just let me know. We can put together meetings and have the right people there.
I don't think necessarily it's the expert part, because I know we have them, but it's going to come down to the resource, a human resource, to be able to fill a plant or a specific trade.
Yeah, or
right?
having the workforce.
So
We can
they
show that we've got the
experts
workforce
and they
ready.
already know what they're doing, if you will. But they're going to pinpoint, does this community have the manpower to allow us to open a $1 million square foot plant, and we need 5,000 people
Yeah.
at this level.
And it always boils down to
It
workforce.
boils down to that.
Yeah.
It's going to, and so I guess that's the challenge we have.
Well, but again, that's why, like San Antonio was a great example, and I happened to be there during that whole process, and really what Alamo colleges did to build programs to feed that workforce is really what sold Toyota. They didn't have that going into it. So you don't, it is always that chicken or the egg, but you're just not sitting on that qualified workforce for that niche. But it's kind of a marriage of doing both at the same time. So, but yeah, this, this retail conference is big in that market, but, that this is kind of a subsidiary of all the other activities that happen. So,
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you very much, Blanca, Brian, Ron. All right, moving on to regular agenda items. A, consider excusing the absence of Director Sabrina Walker for the October 26, 2021 meeting. I'll entertain a motion. Second. Perfect.
I can't get my mic to work very well. Make a motion to excuse the absence.
Perfect. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries with one abstention. All right. Agenda item B, consider an approval minutes of the board meeting for October 26, 2021. Everybody's had a chance to review it. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a
To
motion.
approve. Motion approved. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Moving on to agenda item C, consider the approval of fiscal year 2021 end of the year budget. Christian, are you on the line? Or is it going to be Dago?
Yes. Hello, I am here.
Hello, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing pretty good. Thank you. Now, did you say budget or financial statements?
I said the budget. You know what, financial statements is not on the agenda.
It's part of it. I mean,
Okay.
the September
But
2021 is the end.
the budget is included in the financial statements.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. So, first I want to thank you and for your patience on the reporting of these financial statements. There was a lot we had to roll up our sleeves and kind of dig deep on some of the, there's two large events that occurred that, one, we had to go back one, we had the budget, which forced us to kind of reformat the financial statements that you have in front of us, basically like the chart of accounts. And then there was an event, the sale of property and the purchase of property in July, and of course the bond proceeds that we collected in September. So I'm going to kind of talk about those three things, importantly, then talk about the actual versus the budget, and then we'll go into the balance sheet and just let you know that these financials are ready for audit. Okay, so the first report is going to be the statement of cash receipts, disbursements, and cash balances for the unrestricted cash. We're only going to be talking about the unrestricted cash. So as I mentioned before, the budget was reorganized, the chart of accounts was. So what we see in front of us is that we have, October through September, chopped up by month, sliced up by month. In the second to the far right column, we have year-to-date actual, and then we have the amended budget. To the very far left, we have, the categories of cash receipts. Then we have cash disbursements. We have about 6 groups of cash disbursements. We have the contractual maintenance services, programs, properties, projects, and then on the following page, we have debt service. And then I added one little nugget in there was a new bond discounts and professional counsel, which relates directly to the bond proceeds. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So if I may, I want to kind of go over straight to the year-to-date actual because that encompasses all the months together, and it is the end of the year. Okay, so year-to-date actual in total was 9.2 million is what we collected, 9.3 rounded. Part of that is going to be the very top number, $7.4 million in half-cent sales tax revenue. Very good year. We had budgeted for 6.5. Lease payments, we collected $92,000 from our tenants. The next one is going to be the sale of property, $1.1 million. That wasn't really budgeted. It was, what happened there was back in July, there was a sale and a purchase all wrapped up into one transaction. And I think there was a net payment outflow of $143,000, something like that. But in this right here, this $1.1 million was the sale of the NewCo building. I think the gross sales price is 1.2. The $1.12 million is the net of the commission fees. And that's the NewCo building. Okay? The next row is the investment interest of $9,841. Then we kind of get into the bond proceeds. Just want to show, now this money was not going into the ownership of cash, but I'm just kind of demonstrating to you what actually happened. We collected in total $23 million in bond proceeds. $13 million, next row, in negative number. The $13 million, 10 went to go pay off the Santana bond, the old bond, the 2015 bond. The next row is $9.389 million. That went directly to our restricted account. Okay. Then if you may, Blanca, go down to the second page or let the second page. In the very last category that I added, the new bond discounts of professional counsel, you'll see there, $254,000 was paid for the refunding taxable series 2021. Those were like the bond discounts, bond counsel fees, and other attorney fees for that particular bond. The next bond was for the new series 2021A tax exempt. $273,000 was paid out of there, and then the new series 2021B, $87,013. Now, we didn't pay that directly. That came out of the bond proceeds. So if you take these monies that were spent here and they go back to the very top, we put the $23 million, we paid off the old $13 million bond, and then we put 9.3 into the restricted account. Those four numbers or those four categories then out to zero. Okay? But I'm just showing you, demonstrating to you what actually happened, that we collected the money, we paid off the old bond, 9.3 went to the restricted account, and then we had about $600,000 in bond counsel fees. Any questions about those activities so far? Okay. Then we go on to the cash disbursements. For the year, contractual maintenance services, we spent $888,000. We had budget for $1 million. There's $250,000 that we received an invoice. Actually the check date was October 1. So we did record that as a payable, but it will be paid in the next fiscal year. The next category is programs, $201,967. We had budget for $230,000, which consists of like workforce training, marketing, sponsorships, research, visibility. Next category is properties. As I mentioned before, these are property taxes, and we had the purchase of property of $1.5 million. You look in the July column, as I mentioned before, is that we sold the NewCo building for almost $1.2 million, and we had net commission fees of which netted out to 1.1. And then we paid for the 25 acres in July, $1.24 million. So that transaction was net of $143,000 back in July. So that wasn't really unraveled until last month when we had the closing statement. So, but if you put all those together, it'll kind of net out to almost $500,000 of the amended budget that you see there to the right. Next is got utilities, and then initial park and property maintenance. So overall, total properties expenditures of $1.6 million. The next category is going to be projects. In total, $553,000. You'll see there, almost like in bullet points, of what we spent on those incentives. The biggest one there being the first Hartford shops at RGB for $200,000. The next biggest one is going to be the Vantage Ventures. So overall, $553,000 there. The next category is going to be the debt service. We spent $3,188,000 in debt service. which includes principal and interest on the note on the bonds payable. Overall, we spent $7,118,000. We have a net increase in cash of $2,145,000. We started out with $5.4 million, and as of September 30, we have $7.58 million in the unrestricted bank accounts. Okay. The next category is just supplementary information, just showing you what our cash breakdown is. You know, we have unrestricted cash, and then we have restricted cash. Total unrestricted plus restricted is $29 million as of September 30. Any questions about the statement of cash receipts and cash disbursements compared to the budget? Okay. The next page is going to be the comparison of sales tax revenues that we collected, the EDC's portion, compared to the years before. And since we had a delay in reporting this, I was able to demonstrate all the way through September. You'll see in the very total row there, overall, the 7.6. Now, this is actually what was earned during those months. It's not going to tie exactly to what you have on the report I just gave you, but this is what was earned in those particular months, okay? So it's not cash collections, it's just what was earned. So what was earned in the fiscal year 2021 was $7.6 million. What was earned in 2020 was $6.59 million. We have a 16% growth in the EDC's share of the house and sales tax revenue. Any questions about this comparison? Okay. The next page is going to be the balance sheet. First page of the balance sheet is going to be assets, total assets. Total assets, $51 million, almost $52 million. A large part of that's going to be cash at almost $30 million that I just talked about earlier. We have accounts receivable of almost $2.3 million. And then we have other fixed assets and other assets there. So overall, $51 or almost $52 million in assets. The next page is going to be liabilities. In the midsection there, above equity, you'll see that we have total debt, total liabilities of $38 million. Okay? So our net equity balance is $13.7 million. Those two equal $51.8 million, which balances out to the total assets. This report, this balance sheet, when we get audited by the auditors, this is what they're going to look at. They're going to look at the balance sheet, the primary report. What do we own? What do we owe? Okay. Any questions about this balance sheet?
I have a more general question. How do we compare to cities of this size? Do we know, I mean, in terms of how much we have in assets and liabilities and how much money we have left over?
I don't have privy to that information. One of the ways that we can kind of, as me as an accountant, what I would do probably would look at, this is public information. Some EDCs don't even do a tax return, you know, and we do. Like Harlingen doesn't do a tax return because I think they're kind of combined with the city or some way. But I've searched and look for their tax returns online, and I can't find one. But if you're a nonprofit subject to tax return reporting, that information should be public. So, but to answer your question, I don't have a benchmark analysis report. I wish I did, but maybe staff can get one.
There is information available in the mandated reporting to the comptroller, but it's really more in terms of EDC budgeting. So like I can tell you what percentage is, you know, debt service across different EDCs, what percentage of their overall budget is for operating or marketing, because that's just what the comptroller has mandated. If the board's interested, I mean, we could get a handful of cities and try to put something together, it's just going to be a little bit of work because we probably have to file public information requests.
Yeah, I'm not trying to add to your work, but I just think it's good for us to know how we compare to others if our debt service is extraordinarily high in comparison to another city, for example, or is their marketing budget a lot larger than ours, and perhaps that helps in drawing companies or the things that we may be able to do once we relieve some of the debt service. So I think it does help us in kind of getting a better idea.
Okay, yeah, we can certainly do that because that's readily available. There's about a year, about 6 months to a year lag on it. But yeah, as soon as the new data is available on the comptroller, we'll put something together. If you remember, sort of when we first got here, we kind of had that discussion and showed you some of those benchmarks. So yeah, we'll do that again.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good idea.
One simple benchmark that you can kind of look at is if you look at on the balance sheet first page is that you have operating cash at $7.5 million. You compare that to current liabilities on the next page. That would be at $2.385 million. So that kind of gives you a rule of thumb that you are 2 to 1 on liquidity. It's a current ratio that a lot of outside users like to look at. So that's just one good rule of thumb there. Okay. All right. Then the next page is going to be our accounts receivable report. We recognize the $704,000 that's going to be collected in October. And then, of course, we still have the NECO tool receivable. And, of course, we're still kind of, sending out statements, invoices to Santana for the interest that's accrued on a monthly basis, plus late fees. The next page is going to be the accounts payable. These are 2 items that we accrued that we're going to be paid in October, because the balance sheet is as of September 30. So these invoices were submitted to us before September 30, but were not paid until October. We got the $250,000 for administrative services, and then also the Ocean Gate investments for $500,000. Okay, that kind of wraps up the statement of the financial report. Any other questions?
Anybody?
Like I said, I can confidently say that we're ready for an audit.
Excellent. Appreciate your time, Christian.
Welcome.
All right. I will if anybody would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 year-end budget.
Make a motion to approve fiscal year 2020.
Motion for approval. Second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Moving on to agenda item D, consider the approval of the resolution supporting the Midtown District Development Board and appointment of 2 individuals to the board.
Sure. So the Midtown Development District Board is a proposal of a model that we came up with to continue to advance the discussion of our Midtown area. It's a multi-collaboration between different government entities, the EDC, the city, UTRGV, and ECISD. So this board would be effectively an advisory board to those government units. So like that, we could keep shaping the scope, keep kind of the direction. But anytime you have multiple stakeholders with government entities like this, so essentially we looked at different models, and this is just a way to create a little bit of formality without really drawing a boundary. They really have no discretion in terms of other than advising the government entities that would have to take action. So it's just a model that we propose. We threw that to the kind of the planning group that we've been meeting with. Hiren sits on that group, and then Veronica sits on behalf of UTRGV, and this model seemed to work the best for all parties. So by supporting that, you would do it by resolution. Adopting the resolution is kind of the model support, and then nominating 2 individuals from the board to sit on this guiding group. It's just basically a work group of all these 4 parties. So we'll continue to update the progress, things like that. We're working on shaping the scope, just a high-level scope, so we can do a really high-level schematic, just to kind of keep that vision in front of everybody. But kind of excited about this, and again, it's a rare opportunity to redesign kind of part of downtown by collaborating with these different government units. So this is just the model that we present to do so. The city would do this, ECISD would do this as well if they're doing the partnership in the same way. UTRGV does have a different governance model when it comes to, they wouldn't adopt a resolution, but Dr. Bailey has already provided a letter of support, which is their version of adopting a resolution.
Like you were saying, Ron, like we've had a couple of these meetings. They've all been really productive. I'm glad that we've finally gotten to this point.
I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be a great project. I don't think I can vote for the resolution. I think I need to abstain, but things are moving along well, and there's a lot of potential for what this can do from an economic development standpoint.
Yeah, we by design, we don't want too much fanfare around this process. We kind of want to get things kind of just shaped, but at some point, this is going to be very significant for the city.
I like the resolution, and then on the two, and Veronica, you would be representing UTRGV on this one as well, right?
I don't know yet exactly who we're going to appoint. I think, as you saw, we have a lot of qualified individuals that can be on it, and since I know that we have our provost will maybe sit on it and someone else, but I will be in the loop anyway through EDC and stuff. So,
Ron, is there an interlocal agreement between the parties and the city?
Not at this point. This resolution would be kind of the first step of just agreeing to the commitment to move forward as a group.
Okay.
So, once there's transactions for exchange of properties or things like that, then we will take each one of those transactions kind of independently. This is really just to kind of put a parameter around the planning group. And I know Kieran, as board president, had been sitting on this, but we just figured that it might be a little bit better to have kind of a dual, so 2 parties per government unit. There's ever an absence or there's a backup or both can represent. But again, this board would have no real authority other than to shape the scope of moving forward. The government units would still have to take action on any items.
I think this is just to secure that we're all rowing in the same direction, right?
That's it. And then
Nobody runs amok.
And then who would like to commit a little more time than you already volunteered to do so by joining these meetings? Generally, we had taken a little lull there while we were getting all the appraisals, but we'll probably really start up in January, at least monthly.
Yeah, I would, since staff will be project managing this, and anybody with any particular interest in serving as kind of an advisory committee to a project management process, that would be my one request, I think, for this.
Don't everybody say
Yeah.
aye at the same time?
All right, so how do we
I'll jump in, I guess, from the
nominate somebody, or?
Yeah, in the beginning, I was thinking, because Raul, you have experience with universities and stuff as well in the past, and educational stuff. So I was hoping that you would serve on it, and then I don't mind staying on it since I've been on it already. If y'all okay with
You
that?
accept?
Y'all cool with that?
It's the same item. D, just for record there, the item D is approving the resolution and at the same time, the same action for appointing the 2 individuals.
Okay.
You can break them up into 2 motions, but I would advise approving the resolution first.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution for the Midtown District Development Board.
Motion to approve.
That motion. Second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Now I will accept nominations for the two individuals for the board.
Nominate Raul Resendez. Board. And nominate Hiram Govian.
We have two nominations on the floor. Any objections? No. Please raise your hand if you approve the nominations. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm not sure we can vote for ourselves, but
It's fine.
all right. So we got Raul Resendez and Hiram Govin will be joining the Midtown District Development Board. All right.
For the record, I abstained on both of those votes.
And Veronica. All right, moving on to
And
agenda.
for the record, I'm not sure that's a requirement, right? I mean,
I wasn't
the,
sure, but since we
yeah,
have an interest in it, I didn't know if there would be,
Sure, I understand, but the, UTRGV, higher education was included expressly in the bylaws for a reason, so I don't think, we should hesitate too much to share information between the organizations.
okay, terrific.
Awesome. Moving on to agenda item E, discussion and possible action with MK7 Properties, LLC, real estate lien.
Okay, so this is a project that the EDC entered into an agreement on back in October of 2019. The company in question is MK7 Properties LLC. This was for a portion of Lot 1 in the industrial park. And the way this agreement was structured is MK7 agreed to do certain things as part of the project, and EDC would in effect kind of donate the property through a forgivable note if the company MK7 fulfilled those commitments. And then if the commitments weren't fulfilled, then at the end of that term, the company could purchase the property from the EDC. So as you can see in the agenda packet here on the cover page, there were 3 criteria. I'll only read the first one because we didn't get there. So they were supposed to construct a warehouse on the property that was to be completed by the end of October in 2020. That did not happen. So we met with the company representative to discuss payment according to the agreement. And the company representative requested that instead of making the payment, to just have the property revert back to the EDC. And so this agenda item would essentially accomplish that. It would be like if the deal never happened and we just reacquire the property.
Perfect. Is it clean and simple that way, Omar?
Essentially, right, so the agreement as it's drafted just seeks to unwind. There's some details to that may still need to be worked out, specifically how to do it. For example, there was a deed that was signed conveying the property over to MK7. I don't know if that deed was ever actually filed. If it was filed, then obviously we would need to get a conveyance document to execute it to give it back to the EDC. If it wasn't filed, then, we don't need to do that, obviously. So there's some details in terms of finalizing the conveyance back to the EDC, but this agreement just makes it clear that it will come back to the EDC one way or another.
Do you know if the property's gone up or down in value since then?
I probably would rather not want to answer that question right now because that gets into current appraisals out there, but we can answer that later in executive.
Okay.
So staff is recommending approval on this. I think we would rather just take the property and for the company on their behalf, Blanca and her team have met with him a couple times and he's actually interested in kind of revisiting this on another site in the industrial park. So we may kind of get both things here, which would be great.
And then has he paid any property taxes on it? Or is it even?
I don't think so, again, because I don't know if the deed was ever actually filed. If there are property taxes that are owed, the agreement does include an indemnification provision, so those would be the MK7's responsibility. So again, we'll get all of that sorted out and figured out and finalized, but at least this, places all that responsibility on MK7.
Brian, any incentives that we're operating on or anything that we're going to take a loss on?
No, so the incentive was the forgivable loan. So they were basically in effect donating the property if the company fulfilled the commitment, but there were no other incentives, not that we're aware of.
I'll entertain a motion on agenda item E.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There's no further discussion. I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It's 5:03 p.m. We'll be entering executive session. The motion to re-enter open session. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It is 5:41 p.m. We are in open session. I will entertain a motion to authorize purchase as discussed in executive session. Sorry, one more time.
Sure. Yeah, no, so just to, I could probably make a suggestion. So based on the discussion, I would recommend a motion authorizing staff to negotiate and enter into a real estate purchase agreement on the terms discussed during executive session.
I will accept the motion with what Omar said.
So
First, second. So, all right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
motion to adjourn.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.